when Africans come from Africa to America, maybe they feel as if they're gonna get too Americanized and they're gonna forget their values that they learned.
You just think like, you know, you get on the street, every black man is gonna be walking down the street like, you know, looking like Denzel, and every other person's like, that was how I thought about it. But then I get here, and you know, right, it wasn't as welcoming.
Even though I knew Africa was very rich and that people were very cultural, in my mind I still had this idea like they're still like not as wealthy as us, you know what I mean, because of what's portrayed in media. So it's like when I went over there and then I saw all of this stuff, like we saw from poverty to the rich, and like when they were rich over there, they're like rich. I'm talking like it blew my mind.
Well, all I've seen is them telling me to go back to my country or calling me African police scratcher.
The reason why they have that kind of mentality that you have to stay away from African Americans is not really from a place of hate per se. It's the fact that they pride themselves with the fact that they want, most African parents, they either want you to be a doctor or something. Like if you came in and you said, oh, I want to be like an artist, or I want to do this, I want to be a rapper or something like that, they'll probably disown, like some people go to the extent of like, you're not doing this in my house.
For us, Africa meant pain, because that's kind of where we started when slavery came. So we were these Africans who came over. Like, what was it that you couldn't like hold it down, or what was the break? You know, I think that's how they perceived it. But for me, it was more of I've always been the inquiring type. So if someone were to say, are you African? I'd say no. But if you thought I was, where do you think I'd be from?
That like people from those areas in the South have to be taught about double consciousness, whether you knew the term or not, or like that the Gaussian theology of like double consciousness, that we have this own way of thinking between our own culture.
It's like good to you know, want to be successful, but don't put your other brothers down just to be
but I think that's where
sense.
the disunity comes from too. I'm a very big believer in knowledge is power. That term is not like, don't take that for granted, because there's more than one way to be an intelligent man. You do not have to be in a classroom to have that. Right. Our leaders like the Black Panthers, them all being imprisoned for we know why, what reason, is for us to not know where we've come from, and for us to not have that knowledge to be unified, because the people that try to unify us are not here anymore. We don't like that. We want to be able to say that, okay, cool, I know exactly what country I came from Africa, or like that, where my ancestry came from. We don't have that anymore.
You know, I've always wanted to have that identity in me, but like I always feel like I was never able to claim blackness because I'm not dark skinned. That was always something that I had to make the connection, but like something that I always questioned was like, what is necessarily blackness? Like, does it have to do with your skin? Does it really have to do with that? Because you think of it, you're like, oh, you're black, well, you must be dark. I have that struggle in school all the time. People ask me like, what's your race? I'm like, technically I don't have one because I'm Hispanic, but if I identify, I'll be like, I'm black more than, I will always be black more than I'm white.
I went to SUNY Oneonta, and that is a racist town. You can just feel the tension as soon as you walk up there in the mountain areas or whatever like that. I've been called the N-word. I had ropes hanging outside my dorm, the trees that are outside my dorm window. I've had monkeys drawn on my door. I had girls like scratching me in the middle of the night and I wake up with scratches on my face. I've had these type of issues before. I'm very defensive when it comes to who I speak to. How do I go about that? I wasn't taught that in the house, but it's just like when I grow up in school and how I'm behaving when I go to these after-school programs and go to these different jobs. I build up this wall to make sure that I know who I am and how I want to be.
I'm not throwing no shade at nobody, but there's a lot of artists who don't really use that platform that they have to really like help and uplift our people. And all these reality shows where it just shows like the ratchetness of like African Americans.
The biggest crime is showing a monolith of blackness. Like, there's nothing wrong with being ratchet and being like fighting. Like, I'm personally not for violence, but if that's the reality you live, we're not gonna tune into respectability politics and be like, these are the black people we're for and these are the black people we're not. So if you want to be ratchet, I'm with it, because you're part of the community and we're gonna fight for your humanity and your dignity regardless. I feel like the problem is when you only have one image of what it means to be a black woman, or what it is to be a black couple, or do this or do that, and like only have one image of black success.
Even like with situations like with cops growing up, Like I've been stopped many times by cops because of my appearance, and it's just been those times where I've never done like any crimes like that. I don't have any records. I've never been in prison, but I've been stopped by cops where it's like, nah, you look suspicious, or I'm sure you have something, and they will always try to antagonize you in a way where they want you to get upset and to really, you know, go in on them so that you can give them a reason to either arrest you or like pull out a gun on you or something.
One type of story is being displayed that the black man is dangerous, the black man is this, and you being a police officer and you were out there, you want to go back to your family at the end of the day. So the very first thing you think about is you seeing that story on TV, you seeing how the typical black man acts, and then you have that one approach of how you're supposed to handle the situation so that you are safe by yourself. So most times it's not necessarily that the person acting that way is racist per se. It's just like they're trying to be safe.
Because as a police officer, your job is to serve and protect. You shoot to maim, you shoot to disarm. You do not shoot to kill. A black person is like shot every 28 hours by a vigilante or a police officer. Just from the names that we have gotten, there have been so many since Mike Brown, so it's hard to say that like people are just rioting because they're like angry, because like there's a history. Like Mike Brown was not the first and he was not the last. And like when you just hear names every day of black men and women and children, because some of them are not, like some of them are straight up boys, 12-year-olds and 7-year-old girls being shot in their house. If you took an oath to serve and protect, I don't give a fuck if you're not from that community or not, you took an oath. And when there's a history and culture of like policing low-income black communities, and like we see people being killed literally like every day, I think it's like, I could never not call that racism. That is racism to me, and that is America with 3 Ks. You know what I'm saying?